feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go. Hustle hard, hustle every single day. I'll be making moves till I'm buried in my grave. To the system, I don't wanna be a slave. I've been doing shit my way, or the highway. And in the driveway is a nice range. Cause I grind through the climb, I invite pain. You'll never hear me, bitch, nah, I don't complain. Just gotta flip the switch and you can go and obtain anything you want, anything you need. Your mind's got the key ingredient, it's belief. They'll deceive with the negativity, but I just slide right by that energy. Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go. You got a mind, but even that could change. You could flip the gray matter like some batter in your brain. That's why I say, fake it till you make it A. And if you play that game, then you just might make a change.
Yo, 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 what's up? What's up? What's poppin', everybody? Happy Sunday. Yes, Sunday. I got it right this time. I didn't say Saturday. But happy Sunday, everybody. The weekend's coming to an end, and you know what that means. Another episode of the Dan Levely Show. And for today's guest, he's an accomplished illusionist known for his captivating performances that blend magic and audiences together. His extensive experiment and ability to connect with people make him a prominent figure in the world of entertainment. He has performed in venues such as the Joe Louis Arena, the Hard Rock Cafe, Disney, Michigan University, boo, obviously, state fan, Michigan University, and Florida Baptist University. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's welcome today's guest, Jason Jewell.
Hey, what's up? What's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on? What's going on?
And what's going on to everybody out in internet land? I believe the social media world,
right?
Also, yeah,
in the land of the internet.
Yeah. So Michigan University is where I did where I would lecture, and I did a few shows there, but I did a few lectures there. Okay. And the last one I did before that was actually Florida Baptist University, and I don't remember the one before that. But I worked with Neil Hartman. He was an academic director for a lot of different schools. He's got a few buildings named after him, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is dope. That is not. No, you just did. You said he did lectures there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I
would talk about what the nature of beliefs, like how we form beliefs, what are beliefs, how beliefs are developed, how they change, and the interesting things that we can do with beliefs, because that's what magic really is. It's sometimes people ask me if there's a difference between a trick and an illusion. And there is an objective difference between the two that a lot of magicians aren't aware of. And this isn't just about a definition that you can make. This is something intrinsically existing in reality. And what I mean by that is a trick is where you take advantage of social expectations, which I'll explain in a second. But in an illusion is specifically where your brain misinterprets the information that it's receiving from the senses. So, for example, a lot of times, and what's interesting is I don't know what will translate through the camera and what won't, because the camera has one eye and we have two eyes, which allows for depth perception. And there's certain effects that won't work unless you have depth perception, and certain effects that will only work if there's no depth perception. So this is kind of like a coin here. And now you see how you can kind of like it's rubbery, you see, but obviously it's solid metal. It's solid metal. And when you do this in front of somebody, I mean, it really looks like that's rubber. And a lot of times people are like, let me see that. And they'll do the illusion not knowing it. And everybody around them is like, it is rubber. And they're like, no, it's not. It's metal. And this is our brain just telling us, that giving us that image that it looks like rubber, kind of like that rubber pencil illusion. That's what an illusion is. It is a circumstance in which your senses is taking in information from the world around you, but your brain is misinterpreting it. And there's a reason this happens, and it's really interesting. But a trick is where you take advantage of social expectations. So, for example, if I get one of my coins here, let me see where I put these down on them. Oh, right over here. So I have just a coin. This is a really old effect, and it's called a French drop. And it's where it looks like you grab a coin, and you don't have it. It's obviously here, and you're just kind of dropping that coin into this hand and pretending to grab it with this hand here. And this is a social expectation, something you wouldn't be fooled with unless you knew that we have opposable thumbs. You know, I need my opposable thumbs to pinch things, right? So if I can make a second coin appear and it kind of looks like it comes from nowhere, that trick wouldn't work if I just held my hand in a fist and moved it around and made that appear. I have to be able to palm the object and keep my hands moving like a normal hand, because socially you expect my thumb to be necessary to hold something. So if I could hold something without my thumb, it'll typically fool someone. So that's the difference between a social expectation and an actual illusion.
Right. Yeah. So I was watching like all your videos on YouTube and everything, and your sleight of hand is like amazing. Like the whole
thank you.
Stuff. I'm just like, wow, that's amazing. Like I was watching one of your interviews. I think it was on like Toon Talk. I think it was about a year ago, and the angle of how the camera was angled, like on one of your tricks, like it kind of revealed what happened, like how you did it.
Sometimes it does.
Like, ooh, and I was like, ooh, I caught it. I'm like, I don't know if anybody else caught it, but I did. But I was just like, ooh, that's how he does it. I'm like, okay.
Sometimes it does, and I think it's pretty cool. Like when I was a kid, and a magician performed in such a way that allowed me to see how it was done. I think it's kind of unethical for someone to catch a magician and for that magician to say, no, you're wrong. If they catch you, dude, give them the credit. Tell them, like, you got me. That is how it's done, because that's the game, right? I mean, that's what makes it so fun. You know, it's really interesting.
Yeah, it was like, we don't know how it's being done, so it went right before our eyes. We're just like, oh, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. But the angles definitely mean something. Even if I see, we can get a penny here.
Yeah, see? Yeah.
It looks really interesting. But it's all about those angles, right? Because if I'm holding the penny like this, and I can actually tilt it and be like, where are those coins? Now if I
Right, okay.
it's a really fun little trick to do. It's one of my favorites there. But
now, have you ever heard of like the masked magician?
Yeah, Valentino. Yeah.
Like I used to watch him all the time. And I was like, magicians must be so pissed off. Because he's revealing all these tricks.
They were so mad. He got death threats from people. I don't know. I don't know who was upset with him, but there were people that were upset with him. Their names escape my memory. But yeah, man, he made a lot of people upset, because there's a lot of magicians out there that I don't know if I could say he did something truly wrong. Like, what rule really did he break? You know what I mean? But it is really annoying, because a lot of these magicians, these stage illusions cost so much money. Like, you have to perform for years and spend like $2,000 to $3,000. It's like buying a car, when you get one illusion. And then when it's exposed, it's like now you can't perform with it anymore. But I don't think that's the case. I don't think if something is exposed like that, you all of a sudden can't perform it as a magician. I use tricks that have been, I expose tricks all the time and continue to perform with them like nothing, people forget.
Right. Like I think even if you expose the trick, the just by seeing it, it still amazes you. You're just like, yeah, I know how it's going.
Yeah. There's a lot of effects that even if it's exposed, the answer doesn't travel that fast. It's not like people don't. It's not that big of a deal. It's not, because there's some magicians that once a month they'll lock themselves in a room. And like have like the secret meeting and stuff, and it's fun, but sometimes people can, get a little too carried away with it. Like, I don't think it's that big. Now the government actually assigned magic as an endangered art form recently. I thought that was pretty neat. I do want the art to keep going. I love it so much. I think it's important. I think it tests. It tests our ability to evaluate things. I think it's good for that.
Now, do you see people like we'll say David Blaine, for instance? Like, I don't really see him as like a magician. I just see him as like maybe like a stunt man, more like. Because most of his tricks are like, standing inside ice for God knows how long. How long did he do it for? Like 3 days or something like that? Like, do you see like people like that as magicians, or do you see him as like just like glorified stuntman?
It's kind of a little bit of everything, because when he was inside the ice cube, you still have to cover yourself with Vaseline so you don't freeze to death. You're not really cold. But then again, there are things that he does that is very dangerous. A lot of these things like when he like regurgitates water, filling up bucket after bucket, and then goldfish, and then kerosene, and then lights the kerosene. That's not a trick. He's drinking that kerosene. He's drinking that water. He's swallowing those goldfish and then regurgitate. It's not a trick. When he takes that needle and he sticks it right through his hand, it's not a magic trick. It's not an illusion. It's not a special effect. He's really sticking it through his hand. I don't know how I feel about magicians doing tricks and then calling it a stunt. So someone's like, well, it must be possible. I must be able to attain this with practice, when you can't, But yeah, for the most part, it's hard to kind of nail a label on him. He's an entertainer, he's an entertainer.
Right.
And he could be doing something in which it'll be like, yeah, this is a stunt. And to maximize the entertainment of the stunt, he's going to stretch it just a little bit further with a gimmick here or there, There's tricks that you can do in front of one person, but not a group. So magicians will often say, they'll justify it by saying, I don't mind doing a camera trick for this because I can do this for a person. I can fool a person with this. So I'm kind of justified in doing a camera trick for everybody. You know what I mean? It becomes it becomes unjustifiable when you're starting to do things that you can't do at all.
Right. Yeah. I always like watch him. Like, yeah, all this stuff that he does is amazing, but it just seems like it's not magic. It's just
that's how people felt about
crazy
Houdini.
Shit.
That's how people felt about Houdini at the time of Houdini.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. It's like he died in like one of his stunts. I believe he went into like a river, like a coffin or something like that, and like ended up drowning. Houdini
died by inflammation of, I believe the liver. There was a man. He was a football player. Houdini was able to take a punch in his abs from anybody. And this is one of those things that people can do and don't know they can do. Okay, so my stomach doesn't look too bad, as people would say. But if I tighten up my stomach, as long as it's not a professional, you can take some hits if you tighten up your stomach enough. It's not your stomach is stronger than the average person's punch. It's just the truth. But if somebody gets you without you expecting it, well, I mean, Houdini really was built like he was a tough dude. Like he wasn't weak. He could take some serious hits from professional fighters because he was really strong. He was built. He worked out. He was. It was shortly before he had to do a show during Halloween. He was in Detroit, actually. I believe it was the early 50s, if I'm not mistaken. It was may have been 1952. I can't remember the exact date, but I know it was around Halloween. And Mr. Whitman came up to him and said, hey, you're Houdini. You could take a punch from anyone, right? Bow, right? Just lower cutted him,
Wow.
And Houdini looked at him and said, you shouldn't have done that, son, and kind of hobbled away. And they wanted him to go to the hospital. He didn't want to go. He stayed and did his show in Detroit. And then he went to the hospital, but it was too late. He had something burst in his stomach. I used to know all about that story. Now it just kind of slips my mind.
Right. Yeah. Like he was like the first, like one of the like first people like bury himself alive and shit like that. And like,
a lot of Indian fakers did a lot of those stunts too. A lot of the stunts that we see today, they've been around for quite some time. We have hieroglyphs, Egyptian hieroglyphs, and it's in debate whether they were doing magic or not, but it appears to show somebody doing the cups and balls for another person. And on the Egyptian, in fact, if you Google Egyptian cups and balls, it'll show you a picture of two. And magicians will want to tell you like, oh yeah, they're doing the cups and balls. That's how far magic goes back. Anybody that's an expert, in the field in history would probably say there's not enough evidence to say that. It could have just been a game that they were playing.
True.
But,
yeah. Yeah, I think there's like weird games that I remember going through when I was in school. They were talking about like they would ride on horses and try and throw a ball through like a little hoop. Like on the side of the dome and shit
I heard that when they played that game somewhere in like South America or in the Aztecs or something like that. I don't know much about this. All I know is there was a game like that, and if they missed or something, they would be killed. They died. Did you hear about this?
Yeah, I don't think missed, but I think if you lost, that was your life. Like
that's harsh, dude.
Yeah,
that's rough. We need to bring that back in TV games, like Japan does it. Like Japan
games, yeah. Like Squid Games. That's a great show. But wow. But yeah, it would definitely dwindle down to population problem really quick, probably.
Yeah.
Honestly. But yeah, I also saw a video of you. I think it's like 15 or 16 years ago, and you did a lot of tricks with I think it was mybaycity.com.
Yeah, there was a startup. It was. Do you remember Art Door?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Art Door, he was my first manager.
Okay.
He was my very first manager. He saw me doing a show. I think it was in Ohio, and he came and spoke to me. He was like, "Hey, why don't we get together and do some work and everything?" He looked damn near official. I did a little bit of research on him, and I was like, "Oh my God, let me give this guy a call."
Right.
And he also, I don't know if he had anything to do with mybaycity.com, but he sure promoted it a lot. Julie Munger and it was someone else did a lot of was like they were doing this startup called mybaycity.com. I don't know if they're still around or not, but I do know that they like covered everything that I was doing. And I didn't mind, it was good for me at the time. It was really good,
Right.
So.
Yeah, you're like doing this trick where you locked yourself and like handcuffed yourself inside of a box, and then you're above like the Cassidy River.
Yeah. So I kind of feel bad about that, and let me tell you why. So before the filming of that, I went around to every major, everyone working with the media that would be able to take that footage and do something with it, and gave them the wrong information of where to film. And here's why, because if you were there and you saw what I was doing, it would fool you. But if you were
Right.
able to film it and look at it later, you would figure it out. And the thing is I was held in the box and I didn't escape from the box. The box fell in the river and I was on the other side of the river. And then I vanished and then I appeared back on the side that I started on. And yeah, it was a really interesting and I had somebody sign my arm and everything. And there was I could have done it so people could have filmed it, but I only thought about how to do that like later, you know.
Right.
But
Yeah, I was just like, whoa. And then I was watching the video, then all of a sudden it's like, did you guys enjoy that? And I was like, where is he? And then he disappeared out of nowhere. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I was hoping that I could stop that from being, there's a lot of stuff that may have been the first and last and only time I really tried to make sure it wasn't like documented too much, but
Right.
it definitely made it out there some way. But yeah.
Yeah. So when did you decide that you wanted to do magic? When is this idea pop in your head?
So here's something really interesting. I used to give people a different story all the time. And the reason is because I don't remember. Like, I don't remember how I got into it. But my publicist was like, and this was a long time ago. My publicist was like, well, that won't do. We have to come up with an interesting story of how you started. And I did my best to memorize it. But I was collecting, like if you go on tour, you're collecting like media that you're in, like whatever media can be in. And I'm collecting this and I'm like looking at articles and I'm like, damn, I am not saying the same thing of like how I started magic. It's slightly changing wherever I'm going. I was like, I don't really know what to do about that. And one of my friends was like, you should just start doing that on purpose. Just start telling a different story to everyone. So I did that for quite a few years. Yeah. And then I did an interview with damn, I hope they're not going to be mad at me for forgetting I did an interview with someone like a couple of months ago. I got to figure out the name. They're going to be so mad at me. I did an interview a few months ago and then finally told them like, I don't remember how I started, but I do know that the earliest memory I have of magic was watching David Copperfield and then watching my father. Like it was the first time I had ever seen him impressed. Like it was the first time I had ever seen him impressed. He was like, oh my God, how is he doing that? And I was like, well, yeah, I was like, well, I've got to fool my father. Like I've got to fool my father. And it took me like 20 different attempts to try to fool him. And I finally did fool him. He said, just like with a chess game, he said he would never let me win. So when I did win, he would know, or I would know that I won. And he did the same thing with magic. He's like, I'm not going to tell you that you fooled me unless you really fooled me. So you don't have to guess whether or not you're really fooling someone, Right. Which I appreciate very much.
Right. So David Copperfield, huh? Yeah, he was like one of the first too. Like I was born in the 80s, so he was like the furthest I remember as magicians.
Yeah, he really did change the magic industry. He changed everything. Mostly magicians, 80% of what they do is borrowed from other performers and entertainers, and typically of the past. About 20% of what they do is really original. But Copperfield really did just start designing his own illusions, like inventing these new things. And that's why Chris Angel got such a bad name in the magic community, because he kept coming out with these illusions. Like, we worked on this for 10 years. And it's like, well, not really, because Copperfield clearly did this, but, Copperfield's a genius, man. He's a genius.
Yeah, I remember buying one of those Chris Angel startup kits on the internet.
It was a good kit.
Yeah, it was like the main trick was I can teach you how to levitate. And I was like, yeah, cool, I can levitate. Like I'm floating on air. And then when I figured out how he did it, I was just like,
I'm curious, what levitation did he sell? Was it the Balducci levitation where you lift up on one?
Yeah, like you had 1 foot angled.
That's so horrible. I've got to do that. Listen, I can show you the most effective levitation you will ever see. I hope I can figure out how to do it in this video. I think I can. I'm going to show you something right now. I'm going to try this. Okay. Listen, this is, and the reason why I'm doing this is because I really won't perform this that much, but you have to wear shoes that you can slip on and off fairly easily. Okay. And what I do is I take a coat, because you're about to see the setup of this trick too, as it happens, but you will also see how it fools people. So, I would typically take a jacket off and tell someone I'm going to make my legs disappear. And then I would cover up my legs, and then I would set up the trick, remove the coat, and you would still see my legs and feet, but then I would levitate off of the ground. So I'm going to take the camera, which is right here, and I'm going to try to bring it down to the ground here. So we can see this here, because you got to see what I'm about to do with my shoes. That's what meant. Now you won't really be able to see the upper part of my body, but that's okay. So I have my feet right here, okay? And I tell somebody I'm going to make my legs disappear. So I cover it up with the jacket, and then I set up my feet. And so now my feet are set up now. Now watch how this works. Both feet are coming off of the ground. You see how both feet are coming off?
Yeah.
The ground here. Now, if I kind of, I don't know if I can do this at the right angle. If I do this straight on, this is kind of what this looks like. This is what you're doing. You're pinching your middle shoe, and you're bringing it up like this.
Okay.
And now the camera's really low to the ground, so you will see, you'll see my foot. But when people are looking upwards, they're not seeing that foot on the ground. All they're seeing is literally both feet coming off of the ground. And when you have your foot on the outside, you just make it look like you're taking that shoe off. And now you're what's called ending cleanly. There's nothing left behind that they can figure out. That's called a king's rising levitation. And it is a legit, that'll make you look like you're floating for real. And I have a demo video on Facebook. If you go to my Facebook page, it's a video that I have pinned at the top. And this video basically shows footage from my whole career. And it'll show me doing that levitation. Okay. And it looks like your whole body's coming off of the ground.
Yeah, I think I did see that video, and where I saw you do it, and I was like, it actually looks like you came off the ground, where the Chris Angel thing was just like,
that's what I'm saying. It bothers me how magicians will teach a trick that they themselves won't want to perform.
Right.
And it's like, what are you doing, dude? Like either don't teach them a trick, either be like, no, I don't have anything to give you, or show them something that you yourself would perform. David or Chris Angel is not going to do that Balducci levitation on the street. Like, you do that if you're desperate and you really, you are in a situation where they're just demanding you levitate and you're kind of surrounded, but I don't know.
Right. Yeah. It's just that's when I was kind of beginning to be skeptic about magic. Okay, I got this kit. I could do all this stuff.
Think of that phrase for a second. People do come up to me sometimes, and they're like, "Hey, this person's a skeptic. Do some magic for them." And I'm always like, "Well, wait a minute. What do you mean that they're a skeptic? They think this isn't real magic because it isn't.
Right.
There's no need to be skeptical, because at no point is the claim made this is real magic. So it's really just, I have a visual riddle for you. I'm going to show you something that will fool you, and you try to bust me doing it. That's the silent contract between a magician and the viewer.
Right.
Sometimes magicians will be like, the viewer has to suspend their belief, and it's like, well, then what are you there for? Right. If the viewer has to try to suspend their belief, then what kind of magician are you? Right. I want my performance to be such that try to figure it out. Try to figure it out. We'll have fun that way. It'll be, but.
Yeah, I think that's like I said before, that's half the fun of magic is trying to figure out how you did it.
Yes,
how you did the trick. If you can't figure it out, then it's just fun to watch.
Yeah, and I love teaching kids magic, the kids that really need it, because once you give a child this ability, once you really give them that real ability, not giving them these horrible amateur tricks to thank you, these horrible amateur tricks that are like cheap and lame, and then expecting them to fool an actual grown adult. You give them something real that they can do. They have this confidence then because they can do something that someone that they look up to can't do. And then it gives them confidence. Like, maybe now I can do this. Maybe I can do this too. Now, I love that. I love that so much.
It like gives them their own little secret.
Yes.
Like, I know how to do this and you don't. So haha.
Yeah, definitely. And it's good. It's good for their skepticism, you know.
Now, were you like the person in like high school that was just staying at your locker doing magic tricks to everyone, or
no, I didn't do any magic really in school. I kind of kept that out of school, so I don't handle popularity very well.
Right.
Like I'm like I wouldn't say I'm antisocial. I mean, people in large groups intimidate me. It's just, I don't know why. I think I get panic attacks out in public, but I love being on the stage and performing. I didn't really want to do too much magic in school because I didn't really want that kind of attention. But I did a lot of chess and a lot of debating. I was a nerd. I was like the biggest dork in school, you know. Everybody was cooler than me in school. But
yeah, I was kind of the same way, like popular by not being popular type of thing.
Yeah, that is actually something that's something I used to say a lot, that I was so unpopular that I was popular.
Right.
That it was like, yeah, you know, but but that changed now.
Yeah. Once you start doing like amazing stuff, people are just like start watching, want to watch you.
Yeah, and you know, it's really weird. You get imposter syndrome really easily. Like you're plagued with it. Yeah, a lot. I get a lot of compliments that I don't deserve. I get a lot of, like, I go to the gas station, or like, Michigan is very kind to me. Like, Michigan is very kind to me. Like, wherever I go, people are like, you're the magician, you're the illusionist, you know, and they'll like get a selfie or something like that, and they're just very they're very nice, you know. And I get a lot of compliments that I can't say that I like deserve, you know. I think this is a potential problem with other magicians. You know, they perform, they entertain people, which is great, but there is an epidemic of magicians using my art to try to like hook up with every girl they can find. Like, they'll go to like clubs and they'll see like a group of people. They'll clearly see like this girl has a boyfriend right there. And then they'll just start trying to, you know, and I don't know, like, I think it's horrible, you know. But, you know,
it's like, I don't think I've ever seen magic work on a pickup line ever, like once. Not once.
It can, dude. I'm telling you, it is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Wow. It is ridiculous. But I mean, time maybe it's different depending on you know who it is. Like, but I knew a group of magicians that would like go out to a restaurant, and like whatever poor waitress had to like serve for them, she had to like watch like 6 tricks every time she went up to their table. It's like, let this woman work, dude. Like, you know. But it is really, in the right setting, it's really fun. It's really fun. But
yeah, I remember like watching, like I was watching your card tricks, and I decided like on this episode I was going to come clean about something.
Yeah,
because people don't know this, but I used to deal when I was playing poker. I used to deal off the bottom of the deck a lot, and I and at house parties I would do it. I don't want to say ironically, but I would try to get caught, you know, because I would give myself the same hand like 5 or 6 times in a row.
Yeah.
And people would just be like, "Oh man, I did 4 aces."
Again, it's weird. It's weird how they don't. Yeah, how they're just like, "Wow, you're just super lucky."
Yep, and then no one like really catches on. So I was like, So I was like, I was going to come clean on this episode, like, because most of the time when I'm at house parties and I was playing poker and I cheated.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest, I cheated. I would give their money back. I would, if I won, I would give everybody their money back and be like,
Yeah.
wow, it was a lot of fun. We had fun. But
Damn.
for the longest time, no one ever knew that I was sliding cards off the bottom of the deck.
Wow. Have you ever heard of so you've heard of bottom dealing. Have you ever heard of mucking a card? MUCKING.
No.
It's very rare. It's very rare. Have you ever seen a movie called maybe I don't remember what it's called, Shade. And
no,
it's about card gamblers. And let me see if I can point this down a little bit. Maybe it'll stay. There we go. This might. Okay, so this isn't a magic trick. This is a poker cheating move. And it's called mucking a card. It's where you have a card that you don't want, but you have to turn this card over and show a different card. Right now, that's a 9 of hearts. And so let's say I wanted a queen of diamonds. I have a queen of diamonds on the bottom of the deck here. And so this is what it looks like on this side. And I'm trying to kind of make the move really obvious, where you're pushing it up into the palm of your hand while you're holding on to the deck here. And that's the first part of the move. And it's right here. But now I have to switch these 2 cards. Now, this is a hardwood table, and I would want a felt table to do this with, because if the surface is completely flat, the card won't go under the card. It'll push the card up, and I want the card to go underneath. But so if I needed a bend in it, I would disguise it by peeking under the card and putting a bend in it. So now this is the queen, and this is the 9, and I have to flip the card over and show a queen here. And so this is how you do it. Wait, I want to look in the camera here. See how it pushes it up. So I'm gonna actually make a bend. Bend here. Probably would have already done that. And so there's the queen again. I'm going to do that again. So here's the 9 right here on the table. The queen's in the hand. And I have to be able to flip this 9 over and show the queen. And it goes just like this. And it's called mucking a card. And you can kick that card that you have here into your lap. And, but this is what it looks like from the side here. And they kind of switch spots really, really fast. That's one of my favorite poker cheating moves.
Okay.
You typically would only do that with blackjack, though. But, and then the one that David Blaine made famous, which is a favorite for everyone. And it kind of looks like this right here. So I take a card, 9 of spades here, and change it to an ace of hearts, which is pretty fun. But one more I want to show you with cards here. I think a lot of people really enjoy the cardistry stuff.
Yeah, wow.
One of my favorite ones. Or you can, but let's see. There is one. I don't use fake decks or gimmick decks, except for one. Okay. There's one deck that I will use, and people say, "Why do you tell people it's a fake deck?" These are all real decks, and my answer to that is, I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters, and I'll show you what I mean. This is probably one of the greatest card effects that a layman can buy and perform for someone. This is ridiculous. Like legit not possible. So you take a deck of cards and you show someone. So here's the cards, front and back. And you can literally see every card. And then you make the cards vanish like this. And I'm going to do that move that I showed you, that poker move, where I palm this card and put it right here. And I go just like this. And now the entire deck, front and back, literally every single, and I can go through the entire deck and show you front and back that they
Wow.
are completely white on both sides. And then it's very easy to just cut the deck.
And then bring it back.
And
Oh, wow.
it is still blank.
Right.
But
Okay.
if you complete the cut and then it's still blank here, very quickly. Beautiful. And that trick is actually called mental photography. And you can obtain that bad boy. That's
Wow.
and it doesn't bother me that much that you can, show people these effects, because there's still a lot of things that take years to learn,
Right. Yeah, that was sick. Yeah. Vince Segura chiming in. Yeah, that was sick.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, it's like card tricks are amazing. Like, because you can do so many things with card tricks, and
unless you're in Haiti,
people are just,
a lot of people in Haiti have never seen a deck of cards. There's certain parts of the world
really?
where people haven't seen a deck of cards, so they can't distinguish the difference between those intricate patterns. You change one card to another, and they don't really see much of a change. Card tricks don't work. It's really weird.
Oh, really?
But, yeah. Did you know there's the 12 cards in the deck that goes for the 12 months. And then there's the 4 suits, which are the four aces, which are the 4 seasons. And then there's in poker value 365, which goes up to 365 days a year. And then there's what is it? There's something that matches with every. I think somebody matched something up with the days of the year and the weeks and everything. I got to check that out. But all the kings are actual kings in history in a deck of cards. The King of Hearts is Julius Caesar is the King of Diamonds. The King of Hearts is King Charlemagne. The King of David is King, or the King of Spades is King David. And the King of Clubs is King Alexander. Like, they're all actual kings.
Right. Wow. I never put that together. That's weird.
It's interesting. The history of cards is really interesting. But
wow. Yeah, you would think you just put together some cards to play with. Like, this is just something to play with. You wouldn't think that each card has a different meaning.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting. I believe all the queens and the jacks are actual characters in history as well, like actual people.
Like actual queens and
the name
maybe?
of what's that?
Like actual queens and princes, maybe?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
The Joker, the reason why there's a Joker in the deck of cards is because there were all these like royal looking pieces in the deck of cards. And we thought that clown on the cards was a Joker, but it said euchre. The J makes the Y sound. The game euchre came up from South America. It came to America from South America years like over 100 years ago, and which is weird because there's like 8 states in America that will claim it began there, but it actually began in Europe.
Michigan's wonderful.
yeah, it's interesting. But you people in Michigan also say, like, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. And it'll change. They say that in Chicago, Florida, LA, Texas. And yeah, it's pretty interesting.
They say it pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
Because I have friends that live in Florida and Texas, and I told them like that. Well, we were talking about the Michigan weather before a show one day, and I was just like, yeah, it was 70 degrees here yesterday, and now it's snowing today. And I was just like, if you don't like the Michigan, if you live in Michigan, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. And they're just like, we say that down here too. And I was I was like, really? And I was like, wow.
What's really weird, something I've only seen in Florida, where it literally rains. It's a wall of rain. It's raining right there, but not here.
Yeah.
It is a perfect split where it's raining here and not here. It looks like magic. It's really weird. I'll tell you the weirdest thing I've ever seen traveling in America. The weirdest thing I ever seen. This was in West Virginia, and we stopped to get something to eat at this. It was a gas station / A&W. It was one of those ones where there was the gas station and the restaurant together.
Yeah.
And the cashier at the gas station was very close to the place where you would order your food from A&W. I'm not making this up. There was a lady, the lady that was cashing people out at the cash register was also changing a baby's diaper right there on the counter. I'm not making it, right there on the counter, changing a baby's diaper. It was the wildest thing I had ever seen. And I've never seen that many billboards for beef jerky.
Right.
That's the most beef jerky billboards I've ever seen in my entire life. There's thousands of brands that exist to choose from.
That's in West Virginia, you said?
Yeah.
Wow.
West Virginia or the other Virginia, because I get that mixed up a lot. Is there a West Virginia and a South and a North Virginia, or is it just Virginia and West Virginia? What is it?
It's just Virginia. It's just Virginia, then West Virginia.
That's what I'm thinking. That is the case, right?
Yeah, that's correct. That is correct.
Oh God, Jason.
Yep. Yeah, because I was wondering too. I was like, why is West Virginia north of Virginia? I don't get it, but I don't get that. But all right, cool, whatever. Do your thing, Virginia. But yeah, so you performed at the Joe Louis Arena, which is no longer there anymore. It's now the Little Caesars Arena, I believe.
What? Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think they demolished the Joe Louis Arena. I don't think they demolished it. I just think they just renamed it. But it's now the Little Caesars Arena. You know?
That's crazy.
Yep. And now the Pistons play there too.
Joe Louis didn't get canceled or anything, did he?
Oh no, I don't know. I think they just renamed it because Little Caesars bought it or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, that's because I went to Tiger Stadium when I was a kid. I used to go to Tiger Stadium all the time, and then when they renamed it Comerica Park, I thought it was a completely different park. So I was like, yeah, cool. Let's go see Comerica Park for the first time. And I get there and it's fucking Tiger Stadium. It's just this Comerica on top of it. And I was like, oh, never mind.
No kidding. Is there more than one Comerica Park?
Not here in Detroit. I think in Detroit's the only one.
Okay. Then I performed at Comerica Park.
At Comerica? Yeah.
Yeah.
The old Tiger Stadium.
Yeah. Rush booked me for that. Shout out to Dean Rush. Yeah.
Rush,
Awesome agent.
Now, is Rush like a promoting company, like here in Michigan, or?
No, he's been my agent for like 15 years. And he is he's a funny guy, but he's like a really good agent.
Right.
Like dude is weird. He's a weird fellow, let me tell you. And I like to make fun of him a lot. But I first of all, let me preface this by saying I love Dean to death. Like I love that man to death. He is awesome. But he did a show with me and Chris one time. And the way that me and Chris work when we're performing, Chris is working Chris takes a break being like the front man. And you'll go up to the DJ booth and then I'll go on stage and do my thing. And me and Chris have like this back and forth that we do. And Dean was at this show and saw the way that me and Chris like interacted. And the next show that I did with Dean was behind the DJ booth and he was like trying to like, that's Cap, right, Jason? Right? That's Cap. That's Cap. Yeah, that's I have a habit of saying wicked, like wicked awesome, like hey, that's wicked bitch. And he's like, hey, that's pretty wicked cool, huh, Jason? It's pretty wicked cool. Like he was the man was trying really hard. And it was kind of adorable, but I have stories about Chris I have stories about Chris. It would just sound like I was making it up. I swear it was Chris.
Yeah, I had Chris on a couple weeks ago.
Yep. Yeah. So when I first came to Michigan, I was like, I wasn't in a good state of mind when I came to Michigan. And Chris was like, all right, we're gonna help you get back on track here, buddy. So he booked a bunch of shows for me. I started performing. I had a really big check. Like I had a really, really big check. And I didn't have a bank account up here. I didn't really have anything. So I was trying to go to all these banks And they were looking at the check and they were like, yeah, right. And they just weren't like, yeah, for real. And so I called Chris. I was like, yo, I'm having a problem cashing this check. And I'm not going to say how much money this man has in this account, but the dude's not broke. This is so fucked up. Oh no, I could swear, right? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, good. I'll have to for this story. So he's like, follow me to my bank and I'll cash it for you. I'll cash for it. I'm like, okay. I'm like, man, you have some dollars in your bank to cash this fat puppy. He's like, just come on. So I'm trying to keep up with this speed demon. And he's going like 1 billion miles an hour, and I'm trying to keep up with him. So I swear to God, I'm not making this up. We pull into the bank, and a cop pulls in behind us and is like yelling at me, like, you reckless drive, get out of the car. You blah, 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 blah. Dude, Chris gets out of the car and points at the cop and goes, get back in your fucking car. Don't you fucking yell. You get back in your fucking car and drive. This cop got back in his car.
Wow.
And drove off. And I was just like, you got to be kidding me, dude. And it made sense because when I came up here and had to go back, I moved all of my stuff up here to Michigan. And then I flew by plane back down to Florida and got my motorcycle and rode it back up here to Michigan. But when I was flying down there, I forgot all of my identification. I had my brother drive my car back home because I was at the airport and I didn't have my wallet or anything. I'm like, bro, Chris, I don't have my wallet. It's kind of like what a manager does for you. It's like any problems you do, so I'm like, I forgot my wallet. He's like, hold on 1 second. So he gets off the phone and 2 people in like suits come out of the back rooms and come and gets me out of the line and just escorts me on the plane.
Oh,
no
wow.
question. It is there are a lot of these things that he's done that makes you think. Like it makes you wonder, like, what are you doing out here, dude?
Right.
Like what are you doing?
Right.
Like what yeah, but there's a few things like that that's really blown my mind that he's done. It's really crazy.
Yeah, he's such a good guy too. Like we were talking, like I think when he was on, I think we did like a 2.5 hour episode. And I was like, man, I'm gonna have to chop this up. But we did like a 2.5 hour episode, and he was just telling me like all these stories about how he like is helping all these other people.
Oh,
and I was like, how connected is this man? To be like, just to be like, hey, I'm just gonna like help you out, all this stuff. He told me a story about the guy that from Crazy Town, like with all that, all that shit that happened. And I was just like, wow,
that was really hard on him.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, I can understand that.
Because he blames himself for that.
Right. Yeah, I can.
Yeah, he feels like that was his fault. And it wasn't. Like it wasn't.
No,
you can't help all of these people. Like he cares so much about hip hop that people don't know how many big names that when you think of these people, you think of them being on like the top of the game and not realizing that they've gone to this man for help, because he keeps it, because he doesn't talk about it much, but the like I've seen like just really big names come to him for help. And it's crazy, not the least of local businesses.
Right. And if you talk to him, you would never guess that. You would never guess that he's
no
so well connected. He's just like cool dude to talk to.
Yeah. It's pretty neat. Yeah.
But it was a pleasure to meet him and to talk to him for a little while. It was great.
Yeah, he's really interesting. Like the amount of people that just have a career because he's like put them on is crazy. It's pretty awesome.
Yep. So what do you see yourself in the future? Like where do you see yourself going with this illusion stuff?
So I think a lot of people hate me for that. Because in my younger years, it really was like the goal was how much can I impress this person that I was in front of at any given moment. And after a while, I started to really care about skepticism and helping people learn how to evaluate evidence and argumentation, like really learning, helping them learn how to do that. I think it's important. Like, there was a time when, and this sounds like it's going to get political, but it won't, because I'm talking about communication. There was a time that a president would be able to give a speech in California and would have to travel to the next state, which would take about 2 days. And in the middle of that trip, the speech he gave in the previous state is just now reaching the homes and houses of the citizens. By the time he gets to the next state, he hasn't given the speech yet. And that speech that he gave in the other state is just now getting to the neighbors. And the people are starting to talk to each other with it, and it doesn't spread much further than that. And by the time the president is doing another speech, that same slow progress. Now you can give a speech, and the entire world can hear it the second you're giving it, right then and right there. So we know that communication travels faster. You can have a 9-year-old atheist leftist having a discussion with a right-wing Christian Jewish guy in New York overnight, right in an instant. But what does this mean? Well, if you invented a car, if yesterday cars don't exist, and today cars do exist, and you give everyone a car, how many car accidents are there going to be? There's going to be a lot of them, right? Well, that's not really what happened. Social media happened. The ability to look what we're doing right now. I don't know where you're at. Are you in Michigan? I don't know. Like, we can just connect this way, right? Which means the probability for conflict, for social conflict, the ease at which social conflict can escalate. The probability of that is now so high and so tense. What is the driver's license for rational discourse? It is the subject of logic. Logic is the tool that we use to determine whether or not an argument can demonstrate the claim it attempts to make. And it is, I think, necessary I think it's just so important that people embrace questioning each other, argumentation. I think that's something to embrace, because when people think of the word argue, they think of a heated exchange between two or more individuals. When really, when you think of the word argument, you should think of one or more premises that work together to demonstrate the truth of a conclusion. That's what an argument is, and that's where I've been kind of going with this. I still entertain. In fact, Dean and I work with a lot of retirement homes. I told him to start booking retirement homes like left and right, because a lot of the entertainers that go there, I feel like they don't care. And that kind of breaks my heart, like they won't even touch these people. Like they're, you know what I mean? And it's like, they're there, they're there, they're people. And I try to keep a lot of the media, like a lot of no video. Like I don't do a lot of video on that. I do sometimes, but I have a really big heart for kids and senior citizens, and I do a lot to try to kind of make them happy. But really, the academic direction is really where I'm taking this. But a lot of people are mad. They're like, "What, are you crazy?" But I want to help people engage with each other,
like not Vegas. You don't want your own show in Vegas?
Oh yeah. I actually,
so no show in Vegas then.
I had two of them. One was a 3-month run, and the other one was contracted as a 9-month run, but I kind of like traded my way out. So I did move out. It is really easy to get booked as a magician in Vegas. Easy, because like there's a lot of like hotel, like there's so many hotels there, and you can get booked really easy in Vegas. I think that's one of those tricks that magicians like to do. Like I was booked in Vegas. It's hard to get booked at the machine shop as a magician. That's the challenge.
Right.
You get booked as and like I wanted to perform at the machine shop for like almost 2 decades, and I finally was booked and to perform there. I already performed there. It was a while ago, but I was really happy about that. I was really proud of that. But
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would think like a music venue like the Machine Shop would it would kind of be hard to get into.
Yeah. It's my show has a lot of music, and I if it was up to me, it would be all music and no talking. I like magic.
Okay.
I like magic that you just do.
Okay.
I mean, I have people pick cards and here, hold on to this, but magic that makes the person do too much work. Now do this. Now write this down. Now fold it up and put it here. Now think of 5 different things of this, and now do. It's like just do magic. Right. That's why I like my cigarette routine so much, because it's just illusion, straight illusion trickery. I like it.
Like a straight sleight of hand.
Yeah, I definitely do just like the pure sleight of hand stuff, and that cigarette routine that I do, it took me years to develop this one routine here. In fact, let me see if I can go in the closet here and grab something.
Okay.
See if I have it up here. I should. Oh, there we go. Had to let it dry out on a paper plate here. This right here is coated with a very specific type of trinitrotoluene. And if we know our acronyms, trinitrotoluene, an acronym for that is TNT. So I would typically use my Zippo for this, but I'll use a lighter. So you take a paper here and you make it. I'm not doing what you think I'm doing, but I kind of pretend that I am. Okay. But I pretend like I'm, rolling this up and everything. And then I take the lighter, and then the cigarette's there.
Yeah.
And, I do that once, and then rip in half, and then repairs, tap, and then over here, and then go to rip one more time, but it's gone. Now it's back. And then I do this right here, which is probably one of my favorite things. It looks like you put this behind your hand, and that's where you're storing it. And then you show your other hands, and then you bring it back, and then you do that eye thing again, because when you do this, and people typically think the cigarette is right here in your hand. So when you put it there, you're like this. So you have to redo it.
Yep. And this is his mouth. Yep.
And then that keeps going. But that I like that type of magic a lot more, because you want to do what you would do if you really could do magic, which will never match perfectly. Because if you really could do magic, you would just snap your fingers and make a block of hundreds. Real magic would be boring to watch.
Right.
It would just
be people making money.
Yeah, you would just see, maybe you'd see things you wouldn't want to see, but you'd probably just see a lot of money.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of people going, look at this. Mine.
Yeah. But you know what the paradox of the supernatural is? Here's the paradox of the supernatural. When you hear like, for example, the scientists say, like, we can't find the supernatural. We'll never be able to discover it. They're not saying we won't be able to find it because it's like a pink dragon. Like, we'll never be able to find a pink dragon. It's for a far more fundamental reason. So the definition of, we know about the natural world. Like, we know about the natural world. The natural world is that which can be explained by a natural method of investigation, science, right? And then there is the idea that there is a supernatural world, that there is a world on the outside of that world. Now, let's say that I had this dice here. This dice was well, I have two matching ones right here. Let's say I have two dice floating right here in the air. One of them is floating by means of perfectly rational scientific explanation. You could explain it scientifically and it'll make perfect sense. But the other one is pure magic. It is real supernatural, pure magic. Here's the problem with this. You wouldn't be able to tell the two apart. Once you have an answer for one, let's say we start investigating both of them. So we're investigating both of them. We're investigating both of them. We're still investigating both of them. Well, we find out this is the one that we can explain with science. So we put that one away. We have an answer for it. And now this is the one with real magic. So we're investigating it. We don't have an answer. We're investigating it. We don't have an answer. Now, here's the problem we're stuck in. Because now we have to say, here's the answer to this because we don't have an answer.
Right.
So we never say this is the supernatural because this is what it means for something to be supernatural. And now this is that thing of what that means. Instead, what we typically say is, I don't know what this is. So it is the supernatural. And that's the question that we have to answer is what methodology do we have to investigate or confirm supernatural causation? And can we tell the difference between the supernatural and something that we can't explain yet with science? Because those two things are 100% identical. It even with ghosts, if I saw a ghost, my reaction wouldn't be, I now believe in the supernatural. My reaction would be, that world now naturally must exist. That would be the outcome. And it would be the case that whatever explanation exists for that must be scientific in nature. Because you would ask the question, like, science can't be the only answer to questions. It can't be the only answer to questions. Realistically, so science isn't the answer to any question. It is the method that we use to obtain answers. But let's look at the steps to the scientific method. The first step is making an observation. In what circumstance, when you learn something new, do you do this without making an observation? Now, remember, an observation is taking in information through any senses, not just the eyes. And then the next step is ask a question. Well, if you weren't in a situation where you needed the answer, you wouldn't have to ask a question in the first place. So you can't avoid the part where you ask a question. When you look at the steps of the scientific method, you realize it really doesn't matter if you're an alien species that lives 1 billion years in the future or 1 billion years in the past. The scientific method will be the same for every creature in the universe for all time. Because any act of learning something new requires those steps in that order, regardless of what your senses are. Even the step, ask a question, that must be there, because if that wasn't there, it implies you already know the answer.
True. Yeah.
There's a lot of weird counterintuitive things that are really, really fun to think about. For example, being wrong feels no different than being right, because when you are wrong, you are convinced you are right. So they feel the same. Once you realize you're wrong, you can't realize and accept you're wrong about a proposition while at the same time believing that proposition is true. The two can't happen. So at no point do you realize you're wrong about something and you're actively being wrong about it. At no point do those two things happen at the same time. The only thing you can say is, everything I believe to be true, I believe to be true. But I'm willing to bet a few of those things are not true. I just don't know what they are.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. If you think about it that way, yeah, because like I have encountered, we'll say, ghosts, spirits, like a couple of times, like in my lifetime. When I was growing up living with my grandmother in Freeland, there was, my grandfather tore down an old barn. It was an old like blacksmith barn, and he used that wood to build his house, to build onto his house. Well, in my grandma's house, there was a blacksmith that used to show up at the end of the hallway. and you would just like see him out of the corner of your eye every once in a while, and he'd just always be swinging on something.
That's scary if it was real.
Yeah, like the first time you see it, you're just like, holy shit, what the fuck is that? And,
Yeah.
And then he looks at you and then walks into the wall, and then it's over, and then game over. And I've seen him like at least a handful of times while I was living there. And it got to the point where I was just like, yeah, it's just him. It's just the blacksmith. He's just there. And I've had friends come over to say, like, do you hear the tinging sound? Because at night you hear a tink, tink, tink of him like hitting on an anvil, and you would hear that. But when you said that, like, you no longer believe, like, okay, it's no longer the supernatural, it's just something that exists here, and I don't know why. So it's just like, if you think about that,
here's one of the scariest things I ever learned. I have a passion and affinity for particle physics, theoretical physics, and classical science. I'm a huge fan of Isaac Newton. I remember where I was, what I was wearing, and what I was doing when Einstein's theory of special relativity like finally clicked for me. Like, I remember very vividly. One of the scariest things I had ever read in my life was there's a lot of work by Stephen Hawking, A Brief Moment in History, A Brief Moment in Time. There can be labeled different things, but he's got that book out where he talks about time in different dimensions. And it's really, really interesting. When you look at two dimensions, we live in a three-dimensional world. Somebody who lives in a one-dimensional world, if we make a loop right here, if you live in a one-dimensional world, that's a knot. You can't get that knot out, and you can't see outside of this loop. We live in the three-dimensional world, so we can look at this loop inside, outside, in front, and we can just pull the ends out, and that's gone. Because we live in a three-dimensional world. If you lived in a four-dimensional world, the knot you tie your shoes with, a four-dimensional being, which there are mathematics that explain the possibility for these beings, which is terrifying. Take your shoelaces and simply just pull them apart. They don't need to untie the knot. They see the inside of your body, the outside of your body. They see you tomorrow and yesterday. The speed of light is the cosmic speed limit, 186,000 miles per second. And the faster you go to the speed of light, the heavier you get. So if you look at this little rope as time, and you're traveling along this rope of time, and the faster you go, the more time will start to bend, and you're going to skip all that time in the middle. And it is thought and theorized that if you go faster than the speed of light, tomorrow and today end up switching places. So you go from today to yesterday, just like that. But it's also theorized that nature will not allow us to time travel. It will simply not. If you were able to go back in time and meet your grandfather, for example, you wouldn't be able to will yourself to because you were born. Right. You were born. Circumstances dictated that did happen. Or when you leave, like it is literally documented in UCLA that the Avengers Endgame made a good point. Like, a lot of people, when you hear about time travel, about going into the past, it always bothered me. I was like, you can't go in, because Hawking already explained it. You can't go in the past, your own past. You can't go in your own past. That is a different existence. Right. But the idea that there are beings, shadow beings that live in the fourth dimension that exist around us, that's not that outlandish. That's not that crazy to think about.
You got to think about that. Yeah, once you think about that, it's because, like, perception is reality, pretty much. Like, your perception is, everyone's perception of the world is different. Like, your perception is different from mine is different.
But there is one reality that we do. That's the difference between subjective and objective. Anything subjective requires a thinking mind for its existence. So if I snap my fingers and all thinking minds vanished in the universe, there wouldn't be things like love. There wouldn't be the speed limit. There wouldn't be anger. Those are all subjective things, so they require a conscious to exist. Everything objective exists regardless with or without a consciousness. But yeah, Ernest Rutherford discovered the electron in 1908, I believe, and he recalls being scared to step on his floor for fear of falling through it, because that's the consequence of being being the first person to know a fundamental truth of the universe. And there are seemingly like scary truths that I think about a lot, like the laws of science versus the laws of logic. I think is the closest thing that I've ever seen to real magic. I mean, it is really crazy. Like if you think about the law of gravity, which is I can write it down right here, F equals G, or this is this one little equation right here explains. It's a very beautiful little equation invented by Isaac Newton. I don't know if that's backwards. That right there explains how every physical object in the universe interacts with every physical object. Force equals gravity, and these are the two masses with respect to the radius. Planets move in ellipses. They weaken with the square of the distance. That's why planets move in ellipses, right? So, but you can break this law. You can violate this law using your imagination, right?
Right.
Like in your imagination, you can walk outside and fly. That's pretty obvious, right? Right? What if there was a set of laws so powerful that you couldn't violate them, even using your imagination? Think about that for a second.
Right.
Think about how wild that is.
Like, because you can pretty much break all of them if you use your imagination.
Right. Well, let's try it. So the three laws of logic, it's called the law of identity, the law of excluded middle, and the law of non-contradiction, right? So the law of identity states that everything is what it is, and it's not what it's not.
Right.
So in order for you to violate this, you have to think of something that isn't what it is.
Okay.
It is a fundamental violation of logic. It is like trying to envision a square circle.
Can't.
The definition of one. The definition of one is what is not to be the other. Like the definition of this cup isn't the opposite of this lighter, but they aren't the same thing. But the definition of this cup doesn't mean not a lighter. It just means it is a cup, right? But the definition of even does mean a number that is not odd. Which brings us to the second law of logic. For every proposition, either that proposition is true or its negation is true. Never in the middle, never both, never neither. I think logic is really interesting because it addresses things that are really counterintuitive. And I love counterintuitive. I can talk about counterintuitive stuff like all the time. I like hearing things that feel like it must be true, but it's false, or hearing about things that are false, but it really feels like that must be true, you know? But yeah.
It's just strange. Like, we don't know like all we know is what we see every single day. And it's for the majority of us, it's get up, go to work, and come home.
Yeah.
It's a lot of us don't think outside that box. You don't think about what makes this happen, what makes this way. What
I mean, to an extent, there are people that I think are kind of plagued by those questions, for you to have the ability to say a lot of people don't think about X surely means at one point you must have thought about X.
Oh, I constantly.
I mean, it's kept me up at night. I heard somebody say there was for a thesis, I made this experiment to prove a claim that is accepted generally in philosophy, but it's very counterintuitive when you first hear it. In fact, it feels like it's so obviously not true. Beliefs are not a choice.
Right.
Like you can't choose what you believe is true or not true, but it feels like you can, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And so here's the experiment. Here's the experiment we do. We go to someone, we say, okay, if beliefs are a choice, you should be able to choose to believe that you're currently on the moon. And it doesn't matter if it's true or not true. In fact, you would want to make this test with something that you knew wasn't true. I mean, you can't test whether or not beliefs are true or not, or beliefs are a choice or not. You can't do that test with something you already believe to be true because the test isn't being done. So we say, choose to believe you're currently on the moon. And a lot of times they'll say, okay, I'm on the moon. And then I say, well, why did you tell me you're on the moon? Why did you tell me that just now? Like, you are in the room you're in, and you haven't told me you're there. I'm in this room, but I haven't told you I'm here. If I did, if I said, oh, by the way, I'm in my room, you would be thinking, okay, but why the fuck do you tell me that? Like, why do you know, right? They say, okay, I'm on the moon because they are aware they're doing an experiment in which they have to believe something that isn't true. But they can't understand that and have that position while also believing they are on that, their position betrays them. A belief is comprised of three major components. It is everything you currently believe to be the case, everything you currently claim to know or believe to be the case, your internal model of reality. And it's everything that is currently happening right now and the manner in which those two things interact with each other.
Right.
You know, so right now I have a memory of my brother years in the past. And so if my brother walks through the door, my brain will obviously match the way that he looks with people in my memory and be like, yep, that's your brother. That's the label that belongs to him. So I don't freak out and be like, who are you and what are you doing here? Right.
Like every single time.
Yeah. Every belief that we have doesn't exist on its own. It is all predicated on other beliefs and everything. If you wanted to change your belief, like I no longer want to believe chairs are made for sitting, your whole structure of what tables are has to change. Every memory you've had in school has to change. Like a lot of things have to fundamentally change. You know, it's crazy. Like beliefs are our internal model of our senses have a reaction to the world around us, and our brain records those reactions, and it creates a model of the world around us. You know, and that's pretty much what our beliefs are, which I can talk about for hours. So you might have to stop me because I'll just keep going.
Hey, I got all afternoon, but yeah, I think it's just I don't know because not to get religious or anything, but I wear wristbands a lot, and a lot of my wristbands have like Bible verses on them and stuff like that. And one of them is from 2 Corinthians, and it's 2 Corinthians 5:7, and it says, "We see by faith, not by sight." And it was just like, and it's one of those things where you just like you kind of when you step back and look at it, like a lot of the you believe, like I don't believe in God, but I believe in a higher power, you know, and stuff like that. And it's kind of like what my belief isn't exactly the same as your belief, but it in retrospective, once you think about it, it's kind of all the same. It's just you go through different loopholes to get to the same conclusion.
It's good. It's good that people do believe in different things, and they bring those various beliefs together. And here's why. One of two things are going to be the case. Either everyone in the world already knows everything, and they're all right, they're all correct. Either that is the case, or we all believe in different things, and we believe in and everybody believes in a bunch of right things and a bunch of false things. In which case, in the world where we all believe in the same thing and we all believe in the correct things, we don't have to get together and discuss them. But in the world where everybody believes in different things, some true, some not, it is good and healthy for everyone to get together and to keep interacting with each other to arrive at the most accurate conclusion possible. For any of the viewers out there watching, I was talking with Dan earlier about the lectures that I do on skepticism and everything, and I myself had to cross something off of the list. For years, I have debated against whether or not there was sufficient evidence to believe in things like UFOs and stuff. And let me just be more specific. I didn't just debate on whether or not there existed things that we couldn't identify. I did not agree with the claims that there were objects in the sky that were violating our known laws of physics. Well, I'm still not going to say that I now know there are, but I am going to say that there is enough evidence in which the default position is now on the other party to say that there isn't enough evidence. So if somebody asked me, are there unexplainable things flying around in the sky? Although I don't know how I would answer it, I do believe that there is something going on up there that we don't quite understand, or one of the greatest hoaxes in history. You have to apply Occam's razor here, because they have a very harsh saying for faith. They say that faith is the excuse that we give to things, that we give to believe things without evidence. And the question is because, like, can I have faith that it's okay to rob and hurt people? And if the answer is yes, of course you can have faith in that, which means, but you can't have evidence that that's a good thing for society. But it's weird because I don't get along with a lot of atheists in the world, and a lot of them kind of see me as like some representative of their agenda, and I think it's horrible. I have a video called 5 Mistakes That Atheists Make Way Too Much. And because, first of all, I don't like the way that atheists treat theists. I think a lot of atheists use the label of atheism as an excuse to belittle people that believe in a God, and it really irritates me. And I think they violate the logic that exists, even but they're claiming to have the rational position. Here's the thing. I don't claim God does not exist. My position is I don't have enough evidence to believe a God does exist, but I don't claim that a God does not exist. If I did claim God does not exist, I have now inherited the burden of proof. I've now inherited the burden of proof in which I've got to prove now God doesn't exist. Like, tell me, atheists, how do you do that? I mean, all of the atheists that say, hey, I'm not saying God doesn't exist, I'm just saying I have no evidence to believe, you're cool, no problem. But the ones that just say, like, God doesn't exist, provide to me a valid and sound syllogism demonstrating the truth of that conclusion, because we have no method to investigate or confirm supernatural causation. If you can't get along with somebody that has different beliefs than you, you're obviously, a problem. It's about the harm that you could potentially cause another person. That's really what matters. But yeah, I found myself at odds with a lot of skeptics. I am terrified to. Okay, so I have an academic hero. His name is Matt Dillahunty. This man is one of the smartest human beings that walk the face of this earth. People that talk to him in fear, mainly because you have so much respect for the guy, and you don't want him snapping it. You don't want to become one of the people that he snapped at. You know what I mean? I got a picture of him on my wall. Like, I took my son to see this guy, to his lectures, but he has a very popular podcast in which theist callers call in, and he as an atheist debates against him, and he would definitely probably snap at me for saying like, man, be a little bit nicer to people, So even now I'm kind of stuttering over my words. But yeah, I kind of wish he was. I kind of wish he was, because I think the things that he wants to teach people are just so necessary. It is so necessary to learn, proper logic and rational discourse. It's just really necessary. But there's been too many times I thought I was right and found out I was wrong. To be all cocky and egotistical in an argument, it's very difficult because you have to do two things at the same time that are very contradictory. You have to, at the same time, you believe your proposition is correct. And so it's your responsibility to provide the evidence and argumentation for what you believe, while at the same time recognizing you could be wrong and this individual you're speaking with is right, and to treat their position as such, to listen, to keep your ears open, to hear what they have to say. It's really important, because if we had the ability to just know when we were right or wrong, the world would be a different place.
It'd be very boring.
It would be
extremely boring.
Yeah, like if beliefs were a choice, think about it. No one would be scared of jail anymore. Think if you went to prison, you could just choose to believe that prison was awesome.
Right. And boom, it's awesome.
You sad one day, choose to believe that you're happy because it's 100% in your control. But yeah, I saw something that like there's things that happened that I just don't understand. In like third grade, oh God, I hope my mother doesn't see this video. When you know how your mom does the dishes and sometimes she'll put her rings on the counter. I don't know if there's someone's mom's out there done this. My mom take out her rings and put them on the counter when she did the dishes. Sometimes she would leave them there for the night. Right. I had a crush on this girl in Birch Run Elementary School. Her name was Erica Nelson. Okay. I had the hugest crush on this girl. And one day when my mom was done doing the dishes, I took one of her little finger rings and took it to school the next day and put it on Erica's desk. And she found it. And I pretended like I was like embarrassed that she found out that I gave her this ring. And I was just trying to be funny. So I held my breath to make my face red and I passed out.
Right.
And so this is going to come from a skeptic. Okay. Right. So I feel like my brain did all of this. I feel like, but that's hard to explain because I was so young, but it was a very stereotypical, a very generic, the tunnel, the light, right. Everything that people like talk about and say, it was very vivid and very that. Okay. I don't remember having like a memory of the fact that I was in a classroom 1 second and floating down this tunnel the next second. Right. But I remember getting up and asking the student next to me, like, did you see me fall? Like, did anybody see me fall? Like I was asking around and I think about that moment maybe once or twice a month for the rest of my life. I've thought of it like, wow. and it really, I really think of that a lot. It's really crazy. But, right. I did have a seizure recently, and then that was just blackness for a minute.
Right.
A lot of time went by, and it was just blackness.
Yeah, I've had people I had a friend, he had a really bad disease, and he died like 2 or 3 times, but they always bring him back. But he always had like these seizures or like one time he had a stroke and then he was dead for like 10 minutes and they brought him back and he's like every time he's like I've done this 3 or 4 times. Like I've been to this place 3 or 4 times and nothing happens. Because I always ask him, like, well, what did you see when you died? What did you see? And he's like, nothing. He's like, nothing. Like every single time hasn't seen anything. Which then at that time in my life I was like 14, 15, maybe 16 years old. That kind of like led me to believe like, okay, God's not real,
it's scary. Not real, it's all scary.
That stuff. Yeah.
It is definitely.
And when I confronted my pastor because I grew up Catholic, and I confronted my pastor and I asked him one of the questions that you're not supposed to ask. And I was like, if God created Earth, then who created God? And then he told me God was just there. That instantly was just like, okay, fuck this.
Yeah.
You know, it was like it can't. Nobody's just there. But then,
yeah. That's they call that circular reasoning when the conclusion of an argument is used also as a premise. It's also called a presuppositional fallacy. You're presupposing the truth of what you're trying to demonstrate. It's really crazy. It wouldn't surprise me if there was something out there, but if there is something out there, I don't think it's going to be magical. I think it's going to be something very advanced that we just don't understand yet. Because if you look at cavemen compared to what we are now, that's not too far of a jump from Star Wars, from us. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I don't know, man,
Yeah. I think it was a Joe Rogan stand-up that I was watching like not too long ago. And he goes, the country was founded in I think 1772 or something. We'll just throw out a number. And he goes, that's 3 people ago. He goes, if you think about it, he's like, we're not that far advanced. That's 3 people ago that we just took over this country from the Native Americans. That's 3 people ago. So
I think it was 1776. It was 1776.
Oh, wow. It was close then. I think, what did I say, 1774? Yeah, I think I was close. But yeah, I was just if you think about it that way, he's right. If you're thinking about it, what if some advanced civilization was just okay, it's 10 people ago, what if
the species of dinosaurs lived for 65 million years. You ever see those documentaries where sometimes you'll have to find an old documentary, but they'll show Tyrannosaurus Rex going against Triceratops.
Right.
That was the Cretaceous and the Jurassic period separated by 50 million years. The Tyrannosaurus Rex never saw the Triceratops. That's the species of dinosaurs, 65 million years. The human species, about 50,000 years.
Right. Yeah. You think about it. We're newborn babies compared to in the eyes of the universe.
Oh, yeah. We just got our frontal lobe. It was the case. It was the case. Our stomachs were 3 times bigger. Our brains were 3 times smaller. Someone, somewhere, for some reason, had the idea to cook meat. Maybe lightning struck an animal. Maybe it was shortly after they started working with fire and accidentally cooked an animal. But our stomachs were big because they had to work hard. They had to work hard to digest that raw meat. Once we started cooking meat, all of those nutrients were now free to go anywhere in our body. And over the next few thousand years, those nutrients went straight to our brain. Welcome the frontal lobe, the frontal cortex. This gave us the idea for better spatial thinking, better memory, better everything. Our brains grew 3 times the size. Our stomachs started to shrink, and our ability to. But this had a devastating effect. You see, we had a photographic memory at one point. Right now, if you take a chimp and shown him numbers 1 through 100 in random places, 100 numbers, he can memorize the location of 100 different numbers in 2 seconds. A chimp can. And the reason why they have to do this is because they have to memorize and identify places out in the wild in an instant. Well, once our brains started advancing, we took on language, first of all, and language takes up a lot of room in the brain. And it took up so much room that our brains had to say, okay, we can't have a photographic memory anymore. In fact, we need language. So we're going to come up with shortcuts for how to figure out the answers to these things. Where those shortcuts exist is where magic and illusions live.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, if you think about that, yeah. Think about it. No, do you think that we were advanced by aliens? Like our civilization? We're going left field on this.
Man, there is one carving in this is one area where my skeptic side and just my natural I don't want to say instinct, but just my natural observations fight each other a lot. So this is one area where I think what I put on paper and what I actually believe are rarely that similar. And it's hard. It's hard because when I'm talking with people on this, I'm very hard on them. Like, I'm very like, what's your evidence for that? What's your evidence? And then I go home thinking that is pretty crazy though. You know what I mean? It's really weird. Man, it is. I feel like I don't want to say, I feel like there is enough evidence to justify. No, I don't think aliens had any hand in genetic engineering or anything. I think it is very possible that another civilization saw us a couple thousand years ago and thought we can do this and that because there's no recording devices. Like we can do this and that because they can't record this down. And it makes a lot of sense that they would have saw advanced beings as gods. Like it makes a lot of sense, Neil deGrasse Tyson has a few positions on this that I don't think is very sensible. I think if you got Neil deGrasse Tyson on the show, I think I would be able to counter his points fairly easily. You can't say in the same breath. You can't say, because he says like think about it, aliens coming all the way over here just to see how stupid we are. Okay, first of all, your position, Neil, is that the aliens' idea of this far is what our idea of this far would be.
Right.
Our idea of 1 mile isn't the same as a cowboy's idea of 1 mile or someone who had to walk 1,000 years ago. Their idea of a mile is a lot longer than our idea of a mile in a car. So you can't make the claim that, in one breath, aliens they would be so advanced. Neil likes to make this thing that the difference between us and primates is 3%. 3%, that's it. So when you think about our intellectual capabilities above a primate's, and then imagine just a 3% difference with an alien above us, we wouldn't be able to even understand their language. They wouldn't even be able to teach us how to communicate with them. Stephen Hawking would be equivalent to a primate that was taught tricks because he could do complex calculus in his head, you can't in one breath say, they can't come all the way out here. I don't think you know how big space is. And then also say, well, they wouldn't come out here just to see little old us. Do we not fly to Africa to study ant mounds? I just watched a documentary on it. Yep. I mean, that was at least $4 million that went into that documentary. That means a yes to that documentary had to take place in at least 5 different boardrooms. You know what I mean? It's not that outrageous. And then there is this hieroglyph in Egypt. I don't know if it's real or not, but if it is real, have you seen those hieroglyphs where it looks like it shows a helicopter, a boat, and all? I don't know if that's real, if that really is hieroglyphs there, but if it is, maybe this is just something so incredible that we'll have to wait until we catch up. We'll have to wait until the next generation, because the government literally said there are things up there and we don't know what they are. There are things up there.
Pilots have seen them. Pilots have flown by, fired at them. So
I have seen them that I can't explain. That looks that like I don't know if I would be able to tell somebody the thing like what I saw. And the reason is because I feel like I know how I would take it if somebody told me, like, because
Right.
you take it the way that everyone takes, like, I don't know about that,
Right.
and it's weird. The things that I can't explain keep me up at night.
Right.
They just
Yeah.
keep me up at night.
Like I had I think about 2 years ago, I had a UFO expert on. His name was Ryan Stacy. He's from Canada, and he goes around and he investigates UFO crashes and all that stuff and paranormal activity. And he came up with the interesting theory, because we got on to talking about like the paranormal and Bigfoot and UFOs and all this stuff. And he goes, I think they're all tied into this, like the same dimension. Like there's some kind of dimension, some kind of keyhole somewhere here on Earth where people are coming through and going back. And I was like, and if you think about it, it's not that far fetched, because you see like the ancient civilizations, how they had all those like hieroglyphics on the pyramids and stuff like that. Like you set up the helicopter, the airplane, or even like one that actually looked like a UFO.
Yeah.
So like it's not that far fetched about it.
What freaks me out is when people that have no education in complex mathematics will start to describe something that they saw, and it's like, okay, in order for them to describe the nature of this thing, they would also have to know about these other. Here's an example. We know that the original angels, the biblical angels, didn't look like people with wings. They were frightening, filled with eyeballs, one wheel around another wheel, spinning in and through each other like an axle. You know what the original cherubs look like, what the way that they describe them. That's what it would look like if an object in the fourth dimension was trying to fit through the third dimension. That's what it would look like. You would see things folding in and out of space. You can only see the shadow from a fourth dimensional being. You can only see the shadow of it, if you lived in the two-dimensional world, you wouldn't see a circle. You wouldn't see objects. You would just see straight lines. Everything would be flattened. And if I wanted to push a three-dimensional object through your world, you would see slices of it. So if I pushed a three-dimensional ball into your two-dimensional world, you would start by seeing a dot. The dot would grow into a line. The line would grow, and then it would shrink back into nothing. That is a circle being pushed through a three-dimensional world. And we have hypercubes and things like that to show people. I have a program on my computer that allows me to play with four-dimensional toys, and it's really weird. They're just shapes. They're just shaped blocks that you can like push in and out of the third and fourth dimension. And it's really weird. They fold in all sorts of crazy places. And the way that they interact, the way the fourth dimension interacts, matches a lot of descriptions of these people that say they've seen things. And it's really interesting. I am looking for this may be a little bit controversial, so I wouldn't advise anybody with weak dispositions, but I am looking to have a they have these like really, they're fun to watch. They are fun. It is fun to watch a skeptic and like a legit like one of those like somebody who knows a lot about a paranormal or supernatural subject or topic to go at it in academic debate. I am looking to set one of those up. It's
would
really
be interesting.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting to watch for sure.
Yeah, if you ever get a chance to check out this Matt Dillahunty character, you should. Like it is he's really awesome. I mean, he could be pretty harsh, but which I'm not that big of a fan of. But
I'll probably end up checking him out as soon as we're done with here. But yeah, it's crazy. Like this world is big. This world's big, and the universe is even bigger. And
Oh yeah.
So many questions that we can't even answer. There's just so many questions out there that you don't know the answer to.
Yeah.
Even the smartest individual on earth.
Things that we don't even know the question to, let alone the answer. You know?
Right, exactly.
It's really neat. You know, it's when we were traveling with horses and making fires, you know, it was you know, there was the ice age really prevented us from traveling too much. But once all of that ice melted and went away, we were free to stay in one spot. For the first time, we didn't have to keep traveling as a human species. And when we stopped traveling, that was the birth of civilization. That was when we started collecting things and bringing it back home and keeping it with us. Towns and then cities started to develop, but these changes took like thousands of years. Every small change was like thousands of years. But the second the scientific method was published, in just a couple hundred years, we went to the moon.
Right.
That's how powerful that methodology is. I think the universe is scary. I think black holes are scary. I think when I think about things that it was only like 50 years ago when we thought our galaxy was it. It wasn't until Hubble that we were like, oh my God, there's more than one galaxy.
Yeah, and then you found out like Andromeda's like so close that it's probably gonna end up crashing into us here.
It is
thousands of years, but
it is cosmically, that thing is on our front door. And we recently discovered that another smaller galaxy, it just finished colliding with us. Like just finished. And like finished a couple million years ago type of thing. Because, you know, everything in the universe happens very slow. One of my favorite experiments that ever took place, and it bothers me that I can't think of the name of the scientist. It may have been Herschel or Humphrey Davy. It may have been, I can't remember. But to learn the secrets of light and color, he took a prism. So the sun shone through the prism, separated the light and its constituent colors, and he wanted to know if each color had a different temperature. So he put a thermometer in each color, blue, yellow, green, red, purple, and then he put a thermometer on the outside of the colors, because for an experiment you need control and a variable. So he put a thermometer on the outside of the colors. He looked at blue; it was the coldest, no surprise there. He looked at red; it was the hottest. No surprise there. When he looked at the thermometer on the outside of all the colors, it was hotter than all the thermometers. Like, how is that possible? He discovered an invisible form of light underneath the red spectrum, which is why in Latin it means infra, underneath, red, infrared. He discovered infrared with a thermometer by putting a prism up. All the colors go down, and putting a thermometer next to red, which he thought was where the color stopped. But that's just where infrared started. It's invisible to the eyes, and he detected it with a thermometer.
Wow.
Fucking incredible.
Insane. Did he even think that to even have that idea? Just be like, well, this is how I'm going to solve this. I'm going to grab thermometers and a prism. And he even had that idea to even do the experiment.
Just trying to see if different colors had different temperatures. That's all he was doing. And in order to know that for sure, whenever you do any experiment, you have to have a control group as well. And the control is like, okay, if I'm going to test the temperature of all these colors, I have to know the room temperature. I have to know the room temperature. So I'm going to put one thermometer on the outside of the colors and not in any colors. That's what he thought he did. But really, where the red stops, because that's the last color on the end. Blue's on one side, a bunch of colors, and then red. But there's nothing after blue and nothing after red. Really, that's just the visible spectrum. On the electromagnetic spectrum, because after red goes infrared, after blue goes ultraviolet, and that describes how big the waves are. And a microwave is about that big. That's why you can move something in the microwave about that much, and it'll heat it differently. Crazy.
Yep. Craziness. Jeez.
Fun
Yeah,
stuff.
we traveled down a bunch of wormholes this episode. But
yeah.
unfortunately, we are running out of time.
What the hell?
I'm sorry. I'm a low budget podcaster and I can't afford that much time. But
No, but I like your microphone, by the way. That's wicked awesome.
Thank you.
I have a Blue Yeti and I wanted an excuse to buy a new microphone. So I went to Walmart yesterday and I was like, I'm going to get a new microphone. I'm really cute. And I have a Razer, my camera's Razer, the brand Razer, And so I was going to get the Razer microphone as well. But I almost got what I thought was a microphone arm and microphone attachment.
Yeah.
And it was pretty expensive. And I got really close to checking out with it. And then we realized it was just the studio arm. Just this bad boy right here. But,
a boomstick.
By the way, I don't know how my voice sounds with this wicked little microphone. I just opened it yesterday. How is my voice? Is it good?
It's perfect. Crystal
really?
Clear.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice microphone. Nice mic. Beautiful. Excellent. We got to do this again sometime.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm definitely going to have you back on because I have so many more questions to ask.
You had Cheech on your show too?
Oh, Chong. Hey, Tommy Chong.
You had Chong. How was that, bro?
Yeah. Oh, that was there. It was the lead up to the show was nerve wracking as all hell. Because I'm like, this is Tommy Chong. This is like one of my top 5 people I want to talk to while I have this show. And so I was like all the way up until the episode was like nerve wracking. I'm almost like nervous. I'm nervous as hell. I don't know what the hell's going on. I'm losing questions in my head. But honestly, as soon as he signed on and I hit the live button, it just clicked. Like it just went into professional mode and it just went boom, boom, boom. But then after the show, we talked to
like legit congratulations for that.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I had I forget what the hell's his name? I was a friend on his name was Chewy. We call him Chewy. It's his nickname. It's not his real name. But he had a podcast. It's no longer on, but he had a podcast on and he had Tommy Chong on. And I'm like looking at him. I'm like, how the hell did you get Tommy Chong on your show? And he goes, oh, I got his publicist's number. Do you want it? And I was like, yeah. So he just messaged over his number. So, and then I called him. I was like, I'm hoping this is it. So I called him and then, the rest is history after that. And I was like, wow.
I always told Chris that he should have the phone numbers not on his cell phone. Because if he ever lost his cell phone, like if you ever got a hold of Chris's cell phone, you would have fucking Hollywood
everywhere.
Right. Ridiculous.
Right. Exactly.
I want to jack that man's phone. Yeah. But man, this was really fun, man. I really appreciate you for having me on and everything. It was really fun.
Oh, no problem. No problem. Like I said, I want to invite you back on. I am kind of booked up until like the end of the summer, but I will have you back on later on this year for sure.
Definitely.
But if you have any shout outs or anything to promote, now's the time to do it, sir.
Oh yeah. Too many, like a lot of my shows are private shows, but I definitely want to shout out Rush Entertainment, Dean Rush and Chris Redburn and Danny Indiana. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
Right,
and everyone out there, next week we do have there we go. It pops up. It takes a second sometimes. Next week on Saturday, April 19th at 9 p.m. Eastern time, the live stream starts. We have Darius Jarrell Davis coming in. He's going to come drop some music with us and chit chat with me for a little bit. And I need to pull it down. There we get off of there. All right, there we go. And that's it for this episode, everyone. Thank you again, Jason, for coming on. I do appreciate you. And for everyone out there,
thanks a lot, guys.
I'll see you next week.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Stay up. I love you. Peace.
Take care, man. Thank you so much. Take care, guys. See you guys later. I'm heading out.